Alright, chapter 10, our goal is to get up to about 14. We're in Am Malala, as we know. So chapter 10, Toffee tennis balls and Buddha and the Buddha of Swat. Okay, so this is actually an allusion to a book called First They Killed My Father. At least I think it is. First They Killed My Father is a well-known story. Here we go, in focus. That is from Cambodia and is essentially about the Khmer Rouge and when they came and killed that person's father and a generation as well. So first the Taliban took our music, then our Buddhas, then our history. So kind of very similar, sort of very strong opening as well. Got some nature imagery in here as well. A crown, which is, I've completely forgotten what the crown is, so I'm going to go back to my annotation page. If you don't have something like this, you might want to set one up, just makes it really useful if you become forgetful like I appear to have now. Oh no, that's the Swat Valley. Yeah, okay, I'm looking at my picture thinking, what a strange, why is there a crown? This isn't Macbeth. So that's kind of the Swat Valley where they grew up. We've got a little picture of Buddhas. I think these are my Buddha drawings. So they look like little meringues because the important thing is simplicity of drawings rather than accuracy of anything. And we've got some violence down the bottom. So they came in and did some destructioning, as the Taliban are known to do. They destroyed everything old and brought nothing new. So I'm going to call that sort of West and East as well. We felt like the Taliban saw us as little dolls to control, telling us what to do and how to dress. I thought if God wanted us to be like that, He wouldn't have made us all different. So that's a nice, what should we call that? Let's call that, I don't know, love and support. But even still, like, that's quite a sacrilegious, quite a crazy thing to say if you were a person who grew up in that religious life, to refer to God in that way. So perhaps, so that is really, really interesting if you think of kind of, maybe she's talking about a different kind of God that is different to the sort of, because if she was saying, say, the prophet or peace be upon us or anything that, anyway, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but perhaps she's describing a different sort of worldview than kind of the Muslim worldview, but who knows. All this happened and nobody did a thing. It was as though everyone was in a trance. Nobody did a thing. Allusion to Martin Niemöller. Okay. Not sure what I mean by that. It could be, I could mean the first they came for the communists, then they came for the something else, then they came for me, and there was no one left to, to stop them, I guess. So that's kind of the idea that we're getting here, that all this stuff sort of fits together and is very literary. I think it all kind of has a really, really interesting sort of view. So I've got here Martin Niemöller was a German theologian and Lutheran pastor. He's best known for his opposition to the Nazi regime during the 1930s and for his widely quoted poem First They Came. There we go. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with it, Google First They Came poem. And it's more or less probably much better than what I just said. Which is, let's see, first they came for the communists and I did not speak out because I was not a communist, and concludes, then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. So that's a super famous poem and it kind of all fits in together. Nobody did a thing. It was as though everyone was in a trance. But it is actually quite a beautifully framed chapter, especially in comparison to the others, which are not necessarily very literary in their bearing. They're kind of a bit more just sort of saying things, describing things that happen. That's why there's so few similes. So a double page like that, where we've kind of got a whole bunch of connections to multiple texts and allusions, you can really see sort of the impact of Christina Lamb, I'm guessing, who is sort of ghost writing the piece for us and is giving us some real meat for us to analyse as kind of English studying literature student type people. Got some more violence, but there's a lot of violence, so we don't really need to annotate it all, or we would be running out of pen and highlighter by the end of the lesson. So she was our role model. She symbolised the end of dictatorship and the beginning of democracy, as well as sending a message of hope and strength to the rest of the world. Cool. Some released white doves, one of which flew to perch on Benazir's shoulders. The crowds were so large that the bus moved at a walking pace. We stopped watching after a while, as it was clearly going to take hours. Right, so things, they are changing. Later the curfew took over our lives, so we've got some more foreshadowing, which is probably, if I'm being honest, the most common technique that's being used in the book. Not much else. Lots of literary allusions, quotes and maxims as well, but not too much stuff in there. This added to his mystery and spiritual reputation. So superstition is something she absolutely hates. Wearing the wrong length of beard or the wrong kind of shalwar kameez. So from memory, shalwar kameez is basically our kind of long, not skirt, pardon me, but kind of like a long formal dress. Shalwar kameez is, kind of tunic, sort of the kind of baggy clothing, often worn in sort of Afghanistan, Middle Eastern sort of places for the warm temperature, light, sort of a white or a cream usually. Alright, so we've got clothing, because there's a lot of discussion of clothing. We haven't used this symbol for a little while actually, which is sort of like a scarf or something. But these are kind of important signs at this point. There was the crack of gunfire. I've got here onomatopoeia, which is probably one of the hardest to spell words that I use very often. It's basically when you use sound effects like boom, crash, kapow. So, that's a literary technique, but not a super meaningful one. It'd be hard to write an essay about it. Why don't you go there and fight for women's rights? So, she's starting to become an activist. It was a very good job she was killed, he said. When she was alive, she was useless. She was not following Islam properly. If she had lived, there would have been anarchy. So, okay. And then we've got activism and love and support. So his words are divine messages which you are free and independent to interpret. There you go. So basically, Dad's saying, religion should be free, and you should be free to interpret it rather than get someone to explain it for you, which is quite a revolutionary idea, and quite a dangerous idea too, if you think of the kind of people are being punished for wearing the wrong shirts, saying things like that. It is very risky, and that's the end of chapter 10.